community is such a powerful amplifier and valuable for product development and everything. And you guys have been harnessing or nurturing community for such a long time. Do you think that's been part of the success? A loaded question, but I'm curious to hear about impact of community on some of these projects and your own experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I think that is a major reason that we've been able to deliver some strong results at our drops is we understand how to build communities. We understand how social works. We understand how consumers work. And at the end of the day, reason that we see a lot of brand NFTs or just NFTs in general flop is the creators are lacking understanding of their target audience. They're either trying to market sunglasses in Seattle or they're underestimating how hard it is to develop the demand that actually is critical to making a project successful. So I think that's a place that we can really play and add value.
Welcome to DreamPushers. We connect you with Web3's vanguard, creators and entrepreneurs shaping the future. Hosted by Chris Jonu and presented by Draper University.
I want to quickly mention that none of this is investment advice or financial advice, trading advice, or any sort of advice. And we do not recommend any cryptocurrency or investing in any projects. We're just showcasing the stories of founders. Hey all, welcome back. Draper University Web3 podcast. This is Chris Jonu. And today you're in for a treat. As always, we have the president of Vayner3, Avery Akkineni, superstar, incredible entrepreneur and operator, responsible for the Web3 consultancy that she's launched alongside serial entrepreneur Gary Vaynerchuk. And their client list is just the who's who of Fortune 500. Anyone that's looking at big enterprise that's looking at doing an NFT Web3 kind of related project, they're talking to her. She also sits on the boards, web advisory boards for Salesforce, Meta, Creative X, and the Facebook's Metaverse Council. Love to be in that room. In addition to being one of the founding members of the BFF community, check it out, definitely. And prior to that, helped scale APAC for VaynerMedia and worked for Google. I loved every minute of this conversation. I hope you do too. Hey Avery, thanks for joining us.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Chris. I'm excited to be here.
I am super pumped to talk to you about Vayner NFT and all the things you're up to. Really exciting projects coming through. I was even having a look today and there's more stuff. But before I get into where you are today and what you're up to, can I go back a little bit and get a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey, your background? I know you're at Google and have done a bunch of other stuff. And so I'd love to just hear where it all started for you.
Sure thing. So it all started, I was born in Connecticut and I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville's in the southeast part of the United States and a lovely place to grow up. It's really taken off over the last decade. And I went to university in San Diego because I was obsessed with Laguna Beach when I was a teenager. And I loved that. I thought it was amazing and paradise. And I started my first job there working at Target Corporate. And about a year later, I had this incredible opportunity to join Google in 2012 and work on their new emerging product, which was called AdWords. So I took that, I moved to the Bay Area. I understand you're heading up there soon yourself. And it was just such an exciting time of technology innovation and progress in the world of Web 2, Web 1 and Web 2. And it was a really incredible opportunity. There I met my husband and we actually moved to New York and spent a couple of years there just living the New York City life and really getting my hands around being a marketer. I was still with Google then and had the opportunity to join Gary V at VaynerMedia in 2018, where I joined as a VP on the media side. And from there, we were able to grow the media business pretty significantly. And I had the opportunity to go and start our Asia Pacific presence for VaynerMedia. So we started that out of Singapore and quickly expanded into Sydney, Bangkok, Tokyo, Hong Kong, and I think they've now added Malaysia and a couple of other spots as well. So that was just such a fun journey to learn about all these different cultures and bring our Vayner spirit over across to APAC. I was loving that. Everything was going great. We were obviously suffering through the pandemic, but trying to make the best of it and trying to really immerse ourselves in this digital first culture. And in December of 2020, I started to think about what might be next for me and for my career, because we weren't sure how long everything would be continuing the way it was in the APAC region. It was very restricted, as you well know from Australia and some of the other surrounding countries. And I talked to Gary a little bit about what might be next. And he was just starting to think about NFTs. And we talked a very high level. And over the next couple of months, our discussions progressed around the world of NFTs and Web3, and our thinking sharpened around how we could add value to the ecosystem. And Gary launched VFriends, his NFT project, in May of 2021. By July of 2021, we felt like we were ready to take those learnings and apply them to how intellectual property owners can think about NFTs. So whether those are brands or celebrities or associations, how we could help those folks understand this space. We've been at that ever since as Vayner NFT, and we're fortunate to work with incredible partners, everyone from Ford to Coinbase to Anheuser-Busch to PepsiCo and many more, just these really leading institutions who are in the very early days of their Web3 journey and have been amazing sort of collaborators with us in understanding how they can add value to this growing ecosystem as well.
Can I go back a little bit, right? Because I'm just joking with your team before the call around, you hit New York. Is it just Gary and Vayner Media everywhere? When you're looking at jobs, you're like, I think I have to work here.
It's funny. When I first joined Vayner Media, I was coming from Google, right? And everybody thought I was insane to leave Google, which was like rated the best company in the world to work for, and go and work for this small shop at the time that was really well known for community management, but not much else. But I really saw the potential in how Gary was thinking about things really differently. And I also saw the opportunity to just learn. And obviously over the past 5 years, Gary's brand has grown tremendously. Now, everywhere you go in New York, people know about Gary and they know about VFriends and they know about Vayner. So it's been really amazing how the team and company has progressed just in a couple short years. So he is very well known now, which is pretty special and a testament to how Gary has just kept at it.
Yeah, I think so in my background, I started when I spoke a couple of times, I think in Hong Kong and LA, and yeah, seen around a few things, even with Draper University. I know he's been down there. So very cool. I'm a fan. I think he seems to have got, more empathetic over the last couple of years. I don't know, I like the new narrative. It just seems to me, is that all right to say? I'll cut this out if it's not. But it seems like he's just gone, I feel like he's gone on his own personal journey during the pandemic, and I like it. I always loved him anyway. It just seems like he's changed a bit.
Yeah, I think that a lot of his content has been around the same sort of core themes, but in the past couple of years, I think he's crystallized his narrative and actually brought that to life through the Friends characters created to kindness and empathy and patience. So it's been nice to see the things that he talks about in his content literally be brought to life as animated characters of this new series too. I think you're right that some of the communication style has shifted away from hustle mentality and into these more core tenets of what he stands for in terms of kindness, patience, optimism, et cetera, which is now being brought to life as VFriends characters.
Awesome. Okay, so you sit down with Gary, you said you think there's a lot of opportunity in NFT space. Is this something that was this also piquing your interest at the same time?
It was piquing my interest a little bit. In fact, I've been investing in crypto for several years previously, but in a very passive way. So I'd been interested in a while. Actually, a good friend of mine turned me onto Ethereum in the mid 2010s. And I really didn't think too much about it other than putting in a little bit of money, which obviously did quite well with the growth of those certain cryptocurrencies. But I've been interested in it from a passive standpoint. I think Gary really triggered me thinking about this as a career opportunity because really before us, there were no marketing organizations leaned into the space.
Yeah, absolutely. And then no one that kind of has the reach on the brands, right? So how does this, I'm just trying to understand how this evolves internally and then how does that become pitching clients? Can you just go through the Vayner NFT journey a little bit?
We started to think this was really interesting and less so pitching and us more so sharing with a couple of our trusted partners, hey, we think this is going to be really big, and starting with partners that we've had a long history with, which is the reason Anheuser-Busch and PepsiCo, which have been two really long-term Vayner clients that we helped them get their social handle set up and help them do your first Facebook campaign. So we were in a good spot to be seen by those companies as innovators. So that's part one, is really looking to our deep partners to start off and get some interesting things out the door. And part two is around really using VFriends as that best-in-class use case to excite and engage other partners to show what is possible. I think a lot of times with how Gary operates, he likes to be hands-on and show by doing, whether that's himself being a great creator on TikTok or himself creating podcasts and then talking to our clients and partners around the importance of short form video content and audio, or himself being an NFT creator and then talking to our partners about the importance of launching an NFT strategy that's designed for the long term. So I think it's those two things. It's trusted partners, and it's also really having a super strong example that we can point to as this is innovation, this is what's possible, this is what's best in class. And we've been lucky that we've had some partners who are down to lean in with us, down to learn, who understand this is a super new and emerging space, and nobody has all the answers yet, but we're figuring it out together with them.
And on the VFriend stuff, could you just go a little bit about that journey? I imagine you were like really deep involved in that project. Could you just go through, and maybe this is a good insight for the audience as well, around how the motions at a top level you're going through to launch such an incredible project?
Yeah, so I was still actually living in APAC, so I wasn't extremely involved in the launch of VFriends. But what I can say from a strategic standpoint is there were so many details that were really thought through that brought to life things that have mattered to Gary over the years, right? Like little jokes. For example, if you look at the very lucky black cat, the cat actually, the tail looks like NJ, which is New Jersey. Just so much thoughtfulness that goes into it. Little Easter eggs. Certain NFTs have signatures in them embedded. Certain have rarity traits that are tied to things that Gary really values. And I want to give a huge shout out to Andy Kranick, who was running Gary's own sort of content machine as Team Gary V. Andy actually shifted over to run VFriends full time and really hired a staff of not only people who understand Gary's social, but also who understand web development and understand Web3, understand collecting. We've got this great guy in the team called Adam Rips, who is a legendary collector and has added a lot of spice to how we engage with top collectors in the VFriends world as well. So I think that team did an amazing job. And of course, we all collaborate very closely, but I can't take the credit for VFriends. It was really Gary's brainchild and brought to life in so many interesting ways. And I get to help also expand this into some of our more traditional partnerships as Gary looks to take the VFriends brand into the real world.
And then moving forward to some of the stuff you're working on at the moment, right? What I find super fascinating and exciting about the space is anything goes, NFTs, owning NFTs, and sometimes the tech's not there, but your emphasis on thinking long-term and not like these short-term kind of projects, how do you balance that without freaking out the client?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think that clients also want to design things that are for long-term success. And there's multiple ways to approach sort of your NFT strategy. You can go at it, go big, launch a full-on NFT project. You can also go into it a little bit more dipping your toes in through something like a collaboration. We've seen that be a really fun and successful way that brands have been able to dip their toes in without this sort of everlasting commitment, but with the potential to take that collaboration and use it as their first sort of entry point that then welcomes them into the Web3 space. When we talk about long-term thinking, we talk about designing projects that we think are going to age really well, that are going to be surprise and delight consumers, that are going to build brand relevance, and also making sure it's not one of those cringy brand NFTs that everybody hates. With all of that said, I think that collaborations are a good way to soften it in, or doing the sort of more lightweight initial steps, whether that's a POAP or sponsoring an event in the Web3 space, or even just spending time to really get your strategy. All of those are incredible opportunities for brands who are a little bit more hesitant, to your point, might freak out if we tell them they have to take crypto, but still let them inch towards that sort of Web3 journey.
And then I'm interested in also how these kind of conversations happen internally with, say, your creative team, and they just must be fun when you're like, hey, when Budweiser knocked on the door, what can we do? How do you rein people's excitement into next steps?
Yeah, it all starts with a strategy, and it all starts with, they might be knocking on the door, but how can we help them understand the true potential of this space and also understand what it takes to win in this world of Web3 and NFTs? Because exactly like to our motto, everybody's thinking about this from a short term. How do I get a headline in Ad Age this month? We're thinking about this of how is this program going to be successful in the next 10 years or even longer. So I think we help by educating partners on what is happening here. What are the ways that they can add value? What are the white spaces as well? Hey, everybody's doing X. Here's this opportunity to do Y. Here's someone who's very aligned to your brand. In the case of Budweiser, certainly they were had a bunch of ideas when it came to drops, but we were like, the first thing you need to do is get your wallet set up and buy an ENS handle. So we advised them to buy beer.eth, which was the most engaged tweet they've ever had, was when they shared that information out. And they bought a Tom Sachs rocket, which was Budweiser branded. And funny enough, their legal team actually had flagged that as like something to take down. We were like, actually, we think this is an opportunity to build relevance. And that created a lot of goodwill for Budweiser in the NFT community, which then allowed them to go launch the project that they wanted to launch.
Yeah, I'm just, as you're saying that, I think so, because they're like, There's internal politics, all types of stuff just must be going on at the same time.
Oh, completely. And anybody can go check out. Budweiser is a great example. They also launched their roadmap just a couple of days ago that we designed. And I think it was a nice, fun reflection of all the cool stuff that we've done so far and all the stuff that we have planned for the rest of the year and far into the future.
And can I ask, working with big corporate partners like that and you said, oh, take the tweet down or whatever, how do you balance, I don't know, artistic integrity with, I guess the answer is compromise, but I'm curious as to like how you push towards, hey, this is going to be great, just trust us kind of scenarios.
I think we are lucky to have bold partners. It's typically one of the people who are engaged with us are typically pretty bold already. And we've sold them like, hey, if you want to get a big one, you need to take a little bit of a risk here too. So they get that. And I think it's also worked out well. I think our track record speaks for itself. We've probably done 30 drops in the past year. And I think the vast majority of them have been incredibly successful. So showing like we know what we're doing and helping build that trust over time, it's all those little small moments that sort of culminate in a brand being able to trust us. Of course, there's always internal politics. There's internal things for them to sort out as being part of huge organizations. But we try to stay the course and recommend what we think is the best and most strategic solution. And clients don't always take our advice 100% of the time, but a lot of times they do, especially when they see how well it's worked for certain partners.
And can I ask, you mentioned white space and a lot of the interviews I'm having with people in the crypto space, and there's these kind of very loyal tribes, which has its advantages in community and stuff. But how do you, not the zig and zag, but how are you looking at, say, the one that comes to mind for me is which blockchain you use, for example? Is that part of the white space kind of scenario where you're looking at maybe this won't be on Ethereum this time?
I think white space can mean a lot of things. It could mean which chain, it could mean which utility, it could mean which design, it could be which method are we using to manage the community. So it's a lot of those things. And I think we need to make sure whatever we're proposing is aligned to the partner, right? Is this something that they would make sense for them? Is this a partnership that would make sense for them? Is this the way they communicate? Is this their tone of voice on Twitter? Is this they're a company that's all about sustainability? Do we want to look at something that might be like the green platform? So we try to always find that right harmony of a white space that's also a good fit for the brand, that's aligned to the brand truth.
Exactly where I was going to go with it. So the sustainable kind of angle, I know there's businesses out there like Ariel, whatever, the offsetting carbon and stuff, but I'm curious as to what those conversations have looked like.
Yeah. When it comes to sustainability, we've done a ton of stuff actually with Ariel and with their team, and also with a number of other sort of carbon offset partners that are either carbon neutral or even carbon negative. That's been a fun journey. I think also for partners who are like really committed to reducing their environmental impact, and that's a big like kind of corporate priority and responsibility. We've also launched with other chains. So Polygon, Tezos, Flow, et cetera, that use significantly less energy and computational power. That's another thing that we've done. Immutable X is another great example. We did a ton of stuff there, both in VFriends land and some stuff planned our partners as well.
And has the results been surprising, right? Because I just think sometimes it's on Algorand or something, but there's such loyal communities sitting behind some of these things, ready to just, with a lot of purchasing power and stuff, were some of them pleasantly surprising how successful the rollouts were on some of the other chains?
Yeah, this isn't one that Vayner NFT worked on, but I saw Boo, who did a free drop on Polygon a couple of days ago that was incredibly successful. I think that there's been a ton of interest. We did one with a coach a couple months ago that was wildly successful on Polygon as well. I think particularly with the Ethereum layer 2s, there's a lot of interesting stuff happening there. And as we look towards mass adoption, I think layer 2s are going to be some of the most eligible considerations for folks who, one, want to reduce their Ethereum transaction costs, so gas costs, and two, for companies who are really committed to reducing their environmental impact, because that is a priority for a lot of our partners as well.
And then moving forward, Avery, you got so many cool things happening. What's exciting you at the moment?
What's exciting me is utility-oriented NFTs. I think we're seeing a resurgence we're seeing a surge in NFTs that have really clear utility, whether that's a sweatsuit or tickets to a game or access to a community. We're seeing a lot of that, and I think that trend will continue. I'm really excited about NFTs that are more than just a digital collectible, that are adjective animal projects. I think there's more to NFTs than that. And beyond the utility-oriented side, I'm also really interested in open editions these days. We have seen a couple of really successful open editions over the past couple of weeks. And I think it's a great way for the market to set the quantity. And I'm actually looking forward to doing a couple of drops that are more open edition oriented on behalf of Vayner NFT.
This opens up to the conversation around the physical goods and the community, but maybe I'll start with the community, and I'm mindful of your time. But community is such a powerful amplifier and valuable for product development and everything. And you guys have been like harnessing or nurturing community for such a long time. Do you think that's been part of the success? A loaded question, but I'm curious to hear about impact of community on some of these projects and your own experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I think that is a major reason that we've been able to deliver some strong results in our drops is we understand how to build communities. We understand how social works. We understand how consumers work. And at the end of the day, the reason that we see a lot of brand NFTs or just NFTs in general flop is the creators are lacking an understanding of their target audience. They're either trying to market sunglasses in Seattle or they're underestimating how hard it is to develop the demand that actually is critical to making a project successful. So I think that's a place that we can really play and really add value.
And then lastly, just the comment around the utility, which is probably a much better word than digital, but the to be offline to online, it's almost like online to offline. What are some of the things you're excited about doing there and having bars in the metaverse?
I'm actually a little bit cold on the metaverse as it relates to the immediate term. I think we might be moving towards this in the sort of long term, but right now, like your average video game is much more developed than what we're seeing from a lot of these more open metaverses, whether that's Sandbox or Decentraland. So I'm really interested in what's happening in the metaverse, but one of the reasons you haven't seen us invest there significantly yet is just because user scale on those platforms is still really small. So with that said, we're keeping a very close eye, doing a little bit of testing and dabbling, but we haven't gone hard at that and probably won't until we view this as a place where consumers are spending meaningful time.
Very interesting, very nice. It is definitely a point where when I'm having these conversations around this chain versus that chain, I think at the end of the day, the consumer doesn't really care what is the novice that's trying to get into crypto. It's going to be the customer experience that wins, right?
Exactly. And you also need to have customers that care about the platform, right? Like I've spent a lot of times in metaverses and it's not a place that I often go back to. And I look forward to these metaverses being a place that you want to return to time and time again.
Yeah, not quite there yet. But as an industry, all the tech's just catching up and early days for all of it, right?
Yes, exactly.
Avery, thank you so much. Really love the conversation. And yeah, look forward to see what's next for VaynerMedia.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, Chris. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you so much to everyone who's tuned in. You can check us out, Vayner NFT on Twitter, Instagram, and all the normal places. Thanks y'all for listening.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for joining DreamPushers. Inspired. Subscribe and share. With dedication, craft your legacy. Push boundaries.